So a lot of videos on my channel, or probably most of them really, are about kind of developing your own business, not working a 9 to 5. But I want to talk about the negative aspects of it too. And a lot of people shouldn't be an entrepreneur. Like, it's just their personality is not going to work with that. And there are a lot of negative things as well. And a lot of the positive things about being an entrepreneur are also the same things that become bad things. So like, one bad thing about being an entrepreneur is actually, even though you get to pick your own hours and everything like that, and even though you may have a lot of days where you're not working like a full day or working very little, a lot of times, or a lot of types of businesses, you end up having to work at least a little bit, like every single day. And it can be harder to take breaks, especially like if you're working at home, maybe you don't have a separate office. Your mind can kind of be thinking about work all the time. And also, if you're an entrepreneur, or if you have your own sort of business, it might be something that you really like and are really excited about. So you can end up thinking about it a lot, where you don't have that separation from like your own life and your job. Basically, it can be a lot harder to have that. So that can be a very negative thing about being self-employed or about being an entrepreneur. I had to look at the list. I actually wrote down like bullet points for this video. Normally I never do, but there's too many things to forget. Another thing too is like I talk about striving towards like passive income a lot. I've had a lot of ways of making income where I really didn't have to work that many hours. But one thing about being an entrepreneur is like, probably at least when you're first starting a business, or if you want to make something very big, you might actually end up working a lot more hours than a 9 to 5 job, at least initially. I mean, if you really do it smart and you really make it a goal to make more passive income, obviously you can do that. But especially if you want this to happen very, very quick when you're young, like if you want to get very wealthy when you're young, you're probably going to have to work a lot more than a normal 9 to 5 job. And like I'm saying, you might be working at home. You might be bringing this work with you like constantly. So that can be a negative thing. Another bad thing, a very obvious thing, is your pay can be is going to be random pretty much. Like if you're self-employed, if you're an entrepreneur, when you have a normal job, you're getting the same amount of pay. You're getting paid the same dates, exactly the same dates every single month. When you're doing your own thing, your pay can be very random, right? Like you might make like 10 grand one month, and then you might only make like 1 grand the next couple months. Very, very random, and that can be very stressful. That can brings me into the next topic, which a negative thing is just stress. And this can be different for different people. God, I wish that fucking car would shut up. It's gonna be different for different people. Being an entrepreneur, I would say you sort of have to be better at dealing with a certain stress. There's stress with having a normal job too, but they're sort of different types of stress, in my opinion. So like, a good example is the last job, or the last sort of business I had that was like a rental car business. So with that, like, I was like cleaning the cars myself. I paid for a lot of these cars in cash, or I have expensive loans out in the cars. And of course, a lot of people, they're going to use my cars and they're going to smoke in them, even though there's a lot of messages saying you don't smoke. They're going to bring them back dirty as hell. I've had people get in accidents in the cars and not even tell me about the damage. And that is something that can be stressful, and it's something that, being an entrepreneur, you sort of have to be very good at dealing with that stuff, or you're going to be miserable. And I will say I am way better at dealing with that stuff, probably more than the average person. I remember one of my friends, like I was talking about my cars and stuff, and he's just like, man, you're so like calm about this stuff. And it's kind of, a lot of it I just kind of learned through doing this stuff a lot. Well, probably most of it really, and about reading a lot of books, watching a lot of YouTube about this sort of stuff. But a lot of it is like, when you have a business like that, you almost sort of have to get good at it, like I was saying, or you're just going to be miserable a lot of the time. But I would say that being an entrepreneur, it probably is more stressful, at least in a certain way, just because you're going to have these random problems and stuff. Like, I mean, doing YouTube, like blog is a great example. In the blog type of industry, recently, Google had these algorithm updates, and a lot of blog sites got hit by these updates, and their traffic went down, basically decreased like 80% pretty much overnight. And a lot of these blogs, they could be big blogs that are bringing in like $100,000 a year or more than that, and their traffic just went boom like that. And some of these blogs, they could be full-time income for people. So obviously that can be something that, really, really stressful. And that's something that you're going to have to deal with and try to fix on your own. Ooh, another thing that sucks about being an entrepreneur is like, when somebody steals from your business, they are stealing your fucking money. Like with my rental car thing, one of my cars got one of the renters took the catalytic converter and then replaced it with an aftermarket one, and I was not able to get the insurance to pay for that one. So like it was just my money, like boom. When you're, working for a company and somebody steals from that company, or you make a mistake or whatever, you're still getting paid that same amount of money that you would have. Like it only affects the owner of the company. But when you're an entrepreneur, self-employed, you are the owner of that company. So it really sucks when people steal from you. And, there are thieves all over the place. There are thieves on the internet, all types of... I knew one guy, one of my good friends, actually, he was he still is, he owns a car repair shop. He had some type of theft where somebody stole like 50, I think it was like 50K, 70K or something like that out of his bank account, which should be terrible. And I think that was pretty much like most of his cash that he had. And like a business, like a car repair business, I mean, he had like 4 different employees or something. I was one of his employees at some point. He has to have so much cash just to pay like his bills and payroll every month. So like that would be insanely stressful to have that happen. And when usually a lot of businesses, you have to have quite a bit of cash on hand to be able to run them. And that's another risk, another stress that you kind of face right there. Obviously, another thing is like not having like health care included in your job, things like that. Like being an entrepreneur, you might have to pay out of pocket for your own health care, your own dental care, things like that, which can be very bad. What else do I have on here? Yeah, another thing is like you don't get paid days off if you're an entrepreneur. I mean, I get it, like you sort of can though, like if you have a business set up to where it just kind of makes money when you're not working in it anyway, like say, like the rental car thing I had, most of the time, my cars are just out being rented and they're just making me money when I'm not even doing anything. But still, there is still stuff I have to do, and it's not the same as when you have like a job and you get those paid days off or paid vacation. And depending on the type of business that you have, it might not really be like that. Another thing that sucks about being an entrepreneur is the fact that, like, with me, if I went the route of just having a normal job or career, I would be making way more money than I am now, to be honest. When you're an entrepreneur, like, you might have a lot of friends that are making way more money than you initially, like right when they get out of college. And you might be making less than them for like 10, 15 years or something before all your work pays off. And like eventually, if you stick to it, if you do it right, like I'm going to be like I have a brother that does like, I don't know, coding or like some type of digital engineering stuff. I think he makes like $100,000 a year salary or maybe more now. He makes a lot more money than me. But I know eventually, maybe 5 years from now, 10 years from now, eventually I will make a lot more money than him. I know that. But the thing that sucks about being an entrepreneur is like, it's right when you first start, you're going to be poor as hell. Like when you first start a business, you might be like negative money, negative profit a lot of the times. So that's definitely a downside. You could be broke for like 10 years before it really pays off for you, or more. And another, like being an entrepreneur, a big thing about it, like that ties into the last thing, is the delayed gratification. Especially a lot of times too, sort of the better the business or the more passive a business can be, the more delayed gratification there is. And delayed gratification sucks. it's like I was just saying, like, you might be poor for like 10 years just waiting for the work you're putting in to pay off. It might take a long time to really get going. Maybe 10 years is a bit of exaggeration, but maybe 5 years or whatever it is, even if it is only a few months where you might not be making any money, it takes a while for the business to pay off before you actually get the money. You get the actual reward for all the work you're putting into it. You might be working 50, 60 hours a week for 6 months or something before you actually start making a decent amount of money. And the delayed gratification thing, I think, is the main thing too that keeps people from being entrepreneurs or from being their own boss. That's the thing, is you have to put in so much work up front without even a guarantee of getting money or getting a reward in return in the future. This is another thing that I forgot, but that I really want to add into the video is, so I haven't made a lot of money yet, but I've definitely had like pretty passive ways of earning money. Like, I've had big periods of time where I've only had to work like an hour a day, things like that. I've been able to develop pretty passive types of businesses. This can actually be a very bad thing to have a lot of free time like that, especially for certain people. With myself, it isn't too bad because I usually have all sorts of goals and hobbies that I like to do. But so like, I had one friend, an old roommate, like, he works a lot. He works like, I don't know, like 50 hours a week or more probably. And for him, it's a very good thing. Like, he works as a painter. It just has like a normal job. He's a union job, actually. If he does not work, he will do drugs and drink a lot and just become like a complete mess. Like, his life will become a complete mess. He'll get depressed. For him, having the job is a really, really great thing. It's a very good thing that he has some place that he has to go every day, that he has, that he's it sort of forces him to do something, productive, every day, regularly. If he, I think during the pandemic, he got some unemployment for a while, and like, for him, it was not a good thing. For me, I can have that free time and have these hobbies, and it can be, even for me though, I've noticed there'll be certain periods where, like, since there's certain times where like there's nothing forcing you to work, like if you're making enough money, if you have enough money where you can survive for a while and you don't really have to work, a lot of times it can be easy to kind of lose motivation to work and not work maybe as much as you should. And this is something that can be definitely a negative part about being an entrepreneur, especially if you're trying to develop sort of passive income. This is definitely one aspect of it that will make it so certain people should just not be an entrepreneur also. And the not having a boss thing too, like not having somebody telling you what to do, this can be a very bad thing as well. Like, there have been times when I've just been kind of lazy, like I've lost motivation, and like the last few months I kind of wanted to do more stuff with my blog type of sites, and I just didn't because I just hadn't really felt like it. And if I'd had somebody just telling me do this, that would have been a good thing. And a lot of people worse than me, they're going to need someone telling you what to do. Like my old roommate I was just talking about, like, if he doesn't have somebody telling him what to do like that, and he's not sort of forced to do that, like, for him it's just going to be really bad. Like, he's not going to have that self-discipline to be able to work every day when he doesn't really have to. That's just something very, very big and important that I wanted to add in on the end of this video.